With a focus on raising academic standards, Castlevale School in Birmingham hasn't seen the relevance of the environmental agenda to them, until now that is. We've challenged the school to see how green they can go in just one term. We brought in energy expert Ken Heaton, who identified where big savings could be made.
Today I'm very much focused on the quick wins. We're all very busy people and we've got to face it and we've got to plan it and we've got to target it and we've got to be successful at this.
But asking teachers to do more during the busiest term of the year can prove difficult.
Some forms have had their Green Champions for 2 weeks now and they're just sitting there doing nothing whilst we wait for the few form tutors to nominate theirs.
So will the arrival of Ken's energy report jolt the school into action?
It's really quite shocking, some of it.
In this second programme in the series, Ken returns to Castlevale to set head teacher Clive Owen some energy-saving targets.
This is where we need to be for November and December and for the rest of the financial year, and if you achieve them, we're going to save 10% by the end of the year.
Fantastic.
We'll see whether the school's successful in its efforts to implement Ken's advice.
We have to take at least 1 meter reading per week. If we don't, you're blind. You don't know what's going on.
The leadership team discuss where best to invest in energy-saving measures.
Light sensors in the classrooms. Price for that is about £100 per classroom.
To save £100 per classroom though if the teachers would turn their own
Yeah,
lights off.
indeed, yeah.
But if Castlevale are going to succeed, a lot will depend on whether teachers are prepared to change their ways.
My light switches are on the wrong side of the room. I'm too lazy to go and turn them off.
To encourage staff to do better, NQT and leader of the Green Team, Jordan Kelly, decides to name and shame teachers who leave their lights on when they leave the classroom.
This is Mr. Cleverly. I'd like just to explain why you've left your lights on in your classroom at break time.
Sorry about that, sir.
That's all right.
I'll go and turn them off straight away now.
I would if I was you.
Thank you. Very sorry. He's absolutely right.
You consider yourself named and shamed?
Definitely, definitely. I feel very bad now. Would you like to explain why you've left your lights on in your room?
Because I've only been gone for 2 minutes. That's why. And now I'm going to the staff room to drop my cup and I'll be about approximately another minute. And then I'm back.
So you're going to leave your lights on for the minute?
Is that okay? Yes, I am.
That's not quite how it's supposed to work, Miss Higgs.
Well, obviously, some teachers are still being a little bit better than others with switching lights off. It's about 50-50 now. At the end of the day, it's really good. There's a lot of lights going off at the end of the day. It's just the short times, like lunchtime, break time. Teachers just nip off for a cup of coffee, think they'll be back in a minute, and they're not back for half an hour because they end up talking to someone. It's those small things that we need to really sort of knuckle down on. Obviously, I can get away with saying some things with certain teachers that I wouldn't say to others. So the guys I'm more friendly with are probably getting hassled a lot more than some of the teachers I don't know quite as well.
Do I have to turn them off?
Yep.
No, no one's in here.
And the TV monitor's on. That's off. And the light are now off. Mr. Nicol, your lights are on in your room, so we've turned them off for you. And your TV monitor.
I was going to use it in a minute.
Yeah, but you're sort of wasting electricity.
I'll make sure I do it next time for everyone.
Well, then,
Sorry.
Thank you. See ya.
That's one teacher collared. Now, who's left their lights on? Ah, Mrs. Cooney, the science teacher.
Now we'll have to have a word with her.
These lights are on.
The door's locked. Mr. Ken.
Mr. Ken.
We'll have to tell him about that then.
Oh dear, Miss Higgs is at it again.
Unfortunately, Miss Higgs hasn't learnt her lesson. And if you look in, she's still actually got her lights on. Is her computer on as well? Yeah, I think her computer's on as well.
I actually think there's a conspiracy going on, to be honest. And I think that Jordan and Tom are out to get me. I distinctly remember going off for duty and switching the lights off, and I think Tom next door popped them back on again.
Jordan knows Kerry Cooney very well. She's in the lab next door to his, and she's always leaving her lights on.
Major problem I find with turning my lights off is the fact that my light switches are on the wrong side of the room compared to my door. So quite often you'll come in and I'll have turned one strip of lights off, but the other 3 will still be on because I have to walk all the way across the classroom to turn them off. So in the morning I'm sitting in mainly a dark room because I'm too lazy to walk over to the light switches to turn them on. But at the end of the day, I'm also too lazy to go and turn them off.
A pretty poor excuse, Mrs. Cooney. Things are going to have to change because Ken Heaton's energy report has just been emailed to Jordan. Ken's identified 7 quick wins, zero-cost ideas for the Green Team to implement. They'll save cash and help reduce CO2 emissions. The report makes rather painful reading.
It's really quite shocking, some of it. Simple things like turning off moving screensavers for the computers, and this is obviously a rough estimate, but it's saving over £4,000 a year. If you add that on to switching lights off at lunchtime, checking air conditioning units, printers off rather than on standby or energy save, photocopiers off rather than on standby or energy save, work themselves out to be over £9,000 in savings a year, and also 49 tonnes of carbon dioxide, which is a massive amount.
The survey report is full of ideas for saving money. Improving light switch discipline. Installing reflective panels behind radiators to reduce heat loss through uninsulated walls. Fitting thermostatic valves on radiators. And lagging pipes and stopcocks in the boiler room. A few simple steps that Ken reckons could help Castle Vale save £10,000 a year. It's 6:30 a.m. Clive Owen's up early to plan the school's response to Ken's report. The next 2 days are going to be crucial. Ken's back tomorrow expecting to see progress, so today Clive's convening a finance summit to look at spending options.
Well, we've got a team together today which is going to look at those mid-term things. What could we do in terms of things like radiator valves, in terms like reflectors, insulation, saving water, all those kind of things which will require initially, I guess, a little bit of capital investment. But with that little bit of investment will hopefully bring us back the returns over the next couple of years or so.
He's determined to ensure he keeps driving the process forward. Another important event today. A shiny new blue skip for recycled paper arrives. It's being provided free by a local company, and Birmingham City Council have agreed to pick up the tab for collecting the paper.
Castle Vale Schools making a great contribution, I think. It's great to see children getting involved in recycling, and if us providing them with a skip helps, then we're very pleased.
In the last few weeks, paper's been mounting up as staff and students are getting the message to recycle. Jordan Kelly's Green Champions, hand-picked from every tutor group, take responsibility for collecting the day's waste paper and taking it out to the skip. Teaching assistant, parent and Green Team member Sue Perks is doing her bit too, collecting paper from the stash in the staff room.
So it's working then, the old recycling?
Yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's remembering to bring things down, but staff are putting things in the staff room recycling bin, not emptying it. You have to keep saying to them now and then, don't forget to empty your bins.
They'll be named and shamed if they're not careful. The finance meeting's underway. Martin, the site manager, and Lorraine, the bursar, join Clive and Jordan to plan for the return of our energy expert.
As you know, we've got Ken rejoining us tomorrow, and I think he's going to be a hard taskmaster. He'll be wanting to know in quite a rigorous way what we've done, what we're going to do, what we're planning to do in the next few months.
There's several areas really. I mean, when you come to think that energy is 3% of our school budget each year, I think if we can save even £5,000 a year, I mean, it's a massive saving. It means that we can actually put it to good use. Yeah. And I mean, it's not just a one-off, it's year on year then. We've got all these savings going on. I mean, one of the big things that we've talked about in the past is doing something with the heating.
The biggest problem on the heating is once you come into the school, it's all the radiators.
Right.
It's not a zone system, you know, so if we've got a cold spot in the school, we can't focus the heat on that. And if we've got a hot spot, we can't cool that down.
Right.
It's either all or nothing.
So is the possible alternative that we consider radiator valves on an individual basis?
That would help. It would give each of the members of staff a little bit of control in their room, you know, that if it was too hot, they could turn it off. And it would also help offset, you know, the parts of the school where it's still cold and they want them on.
Right.
Well, Lorraine, have we got some money we could put to that if we wanted to go ahead and do some work around that?
I think so. I mean, looking at it in the long term and not in the short term, I think it's got to be a good saving. It's got to be something we should go for.
The insulation behind them.
Yeah, the reflectors.
Yeah, which
They do work well.
work
those.
really, really
yes,
well.
Yes, they do.
And cost for 80 radiators, 1,600, and the savings of nearly £3,000 a year. So.
What if we can regulate them?
That's right.
That will actually become far more important, won't it?
That's right,
Because we want to keep in the heat we've got then.
That's it.
So it could be really valuable.
Yep.
Looking at number 12 in Ken's report, the issue of the convector heaters. How many of these have we got around the building? Do you know?
I think there's probably about 10 to a dozen. They're usually secreted away in offices. You know, but I mean, I find that once we issue one, we never get it back.
Yeah. Yes. But there are some, aren't there?
There are definitely some,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, could we do a search?
Yeah.
And try and quietly, perhaps when somebody's on the evening shift, and remove them discreetly. And if we keep them in the storeroom for when people need them, if there's a genuine problem with heating, we can issue them back out, can't we? But I think what Ken suggests is, if they're there, people will use them.
And they are very expensive to run.
Yeah.
Can I just add two for consideration? The one is push taps in the toilets. Some of the toilets, we've already got them in, but it'd be, again, depending on quantity, £30 to £40 per tap.
Particularly in student toilets, I think that would be well worth doing.
Yeah, staff toilets isn't so...
children are the ones who are sloppy about leaving them on.
Yeah.
And the other one, we were talking briefly previously about light sensors in the classrooms.
Oh, yes.
And the price for that is about £100 per classroom. And obviously, you know, we don't have to worry about, you know, people turning lights off then. They just go off automatically.
Yeah. A nice way to save £100 per classroom, though, if the teachers would turn their own
Yeah,
lights off.
Indeed, yes.
That's it.
No, very good point, Jordan.
Because that's quite expensive, really, isn't it, overall?
I would imagine it would take a while to get your money back on that.
Yeah, I would have thought.
I would have thought so. Yeah. So we've got 3 or 4 things we can go ahead and get moving on, really, in the near future, really.
Castle Vale have invested some money in the fabric of the building. Some of the laboratories have been totally refurbished. Great for teaching and learning, not so hot on energy conservation.
All the radiators are nicely blocked in, nice metal gauzes on the top to let the heat out, but there is no way of getting into the radiators to change the temperature. So it being such a big classroom, it's freezing cold in the morning because all the heat nicely gets trapped inside the cupboards. Then as the day goes on, they leave the heating on the whole school, and you can't turn your radiators off. So it starts to turn into an absolute sauna. So you open the windows and the heat goes straight out the windows because all the vents are actually positioned underneath each of the windows. And the kids insist on putting the fans on even in the middle of winter because it gets so hot in here. So you've got no way of controlling the temperature without wasting a ton of energy.
Jordan's been given cover so he can go on a fact-finding trip to a school in Warwick. Myton School has earned an Eco School Green Flag Award after deciding to go greener 3 years ago. He's come to listen and learn from his counterpart, who's another young science teacher.
Do you have any sort of green team meetings or anything like that?
On and off, we do, yes. A couple of years ago, we had quite regular meetings. But I found that, especially with the fact that the main Eco School body of pupils is quite young, they wanted to come along and do activities, make things, but no teachers attend. I sort of consider it to be my thing, the thing that I'm interested in, and teachers will support me, but not attend meetings. They're not that keen.
So we planted trees, we came up with the idea of doing bird feed and sort of recycling paper, and we'd go round emptying the recycling bins which hadn't been emptied.
Do you have a reward system or anything for the ones that do get involved?
Not really. I do every now and then. I throw A's at them and buy chocolate, and it's a bribe system, but it's also based on them enjoying it, I think.
We thought it wasn't really fair if we named and shamed the pupils. So we've got some monitors going around checking classrooms, and they're actually going to name and shame the teachers who are in charge of that classroom in an assembly. Do you think something like that might work here?
we did something similar.
They don't like being confronted by students, and then they act really smart, so that's the only problem you get with that. And they try to ignore you.
They don't like being told what to do because they think that they're higher than us in the hierarchy and everything and think they know best.
That's when you need to send in the boss.
Yeah, which is why I try and press with them that you have grown up with being environmentally aware. They are having to learn, and some of them are refusing, like they're refusing to learn about computers and stuff. It's a generation thing, which is why it's got easier.
At Castle Vale, Ken Heaton's arrived. He's expecting his energy survey report to be making an impact. He wants to set targets that must be hit if Castle Vale is going to make the savings he thinks are possible. Clive Owen's a little defensive at first.
It hasn't been as easy as we might have wanted.
No.
It's been a really busy term and we've got other things going on. The mocks are about to start with Year 11. But certainly I think you'll see improvements in terms of those easy hits, although we wouldn't want to say we're there yet, because we're trying to set that agenda alongside, obviously, other things going on in the school.
No, I wouldn't expect it. As long as you've actually made an effort to actually attack some of the quick hits, that is good, because, you know, there's a lot of work involved here. There's a lot of work involved in the strategy. You know, it's going to take time. What I don't want to do is actually drown you and your team in paperwork. But I'll go into detail with the team on all this analysis I've done on data and explain to the team exactly what all this means. This one's quite interesting because we've got the electricity usage in 205 on the black line, and this is 206, 207 here, that's your current, and that's your target line. This is where we need to be for November and December and for the rest of the financial year, and if you achieve them, we're going to save 10% by the end of the year.
Fantastic. OK, we'll have a look at those with interest.
Before meeting with the Green team, Ken wants to check whether the school has been implementing his quick win energy saving tips from his previous visit. His first impressions are none too good.
Last time I was here, I was stressing the importance of actually using natural daylight and switching off lights where we possibly can. Unfortunately, it's not been done. So I will stress this again. The light switches could be colour-coded with very small little yellow or green dots over the switches to indicate that these are lights that can be turned off safely when there's lots of natural light, and having a simple colour coding system sends the right message to people. Oh, it's okay to switch that one, it's a yellow. Bang! And off we go, we've got savings. Last time I was here, we had good management here. There was good switch discipline. We've now got a sticker here, which is a start, but again, the switches should be colour-coded so we know what we can switch off safely, where there's lots of natural light, and more importantly, posters and little stickers like that should not be by light switches. They need to be here, by the door, so as people are walking out by the door, they see the message, not by the light switch, on the door. Aha! We found the convector heaters. There are literally thousands of pounds of energy to be saved by just these few. So I'm really pleased they've got that message. Whoa, savings in the bank. Excellent. See if we can get another truckload next time I come.
The staff room isn't a safe haven for teachers not doing their bit. Ken's looking for best practice here more than anywhere.
I have not been in the staff room before.
Teachers must lead by example.
At least we've got half the lights turned off in the staff room, so that's good. The bad point is, I've got good eyes, and from a distance, I can see a monitor on screensaver. We've got these monitors left on. They don't need to be on. They could be turned off. You can see the monitor switch here, it's flashing, indicating that the monitor's on standby. So it's still consuming 10 watts, and when you've got hundreds and hundreds of PCs across the school, it amounts to a significant amount, and it just needs a little touch like that. Switch them off.
It's time for the finance team to hear Ken's verdict on their implementation of his energy report.
If I could have general feedback on what you thought of the report.
No, I thought the survey was excellent.
It was
really valuable.
We've used it actually to implement where we're moving.
And there was certainly the radiators, wasn't there?
Yeah, we want to get the valves fitted on the radiators so that we can control the temperature of our own classrooms and offices.
Yeah. It's great that you're actually attacking this issue and fitting the thermostat radiator valves, and I see it as a role of the energy champions to actually manage them radiators.
And the other one was push taps.
Push taps, yeah.
Where there aren't already push taps.
Yeah, I mean, we have already got some in the building, but I've got to do a survey to identify the areas, particularly children's toilets.
Okay, I think I'll look at that later during the day, actually, because you haven't got a particular, in my opinion, you haven't got a particular water issue at this school. Okay. It's electricity and gas that I'm really concerned about. We have to take at least 1 meter reading per week, ideally 2. If we don't, you're blind. You don't know what's going on. You have to. You can't stress how important it is that you take weekly meter readings. I was hoping you were going to tell me that you'd implemented weekly meter readings 3 weeks ago after I left, so I'm a little bit disappointed there.
Well, we've been busy, but it's certainly in hand now, Ken, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's clear to Ken that keen as they are to succeed, Castle Vale haven't yet got their priorities right.
I was a little bit disappointed, to tell you the truth, that they'd not grab the bull by the horns and let's get this monitoring and targeting in. I was very disappointed about that, because it became evident during the meeting that monitoring and targeting is important. You have to see what you're using, so that was a negative. And another negative was they raised the issue of push taps on water, which is, fine. We're all for saving water, but they need to focus and focus on the priorities. Water is £5,000–6,000 a year. Gas is £45,000 a year, and electricity is £60–70,000 a year. To me, we've got a huge problem on gas on this property, and we have to channel our and focus our ideas onto gas.
If you do really slow movements, it's much easier for us to follow than if you
Having to encourage staff to implement another initiative during the busiest term of the year is a big challenge for Clive Owen. He's worked hard during the past 2 years to raise academic achievement, and he wants to make sure that the move towards sustainability doesn't adversely affect the main priority.
In the context of the whole school, it's still an important agenda for us, but we have to balance the efforts we can put into that, I guess, alongside the normal, everyday stuff, the run-of-the-mill stuff that keeps the school going.
After lunch, I just
It really seems like you do 50% of the work from September through to Christmas, and then the other 50% from January through to June, July. You're under the pressure towards the mocks with Year 11s, and you're trying to do everything you can to get the results sorted and get children very much online with new courses in Year 10. So it's a really challenging term, really.
Late afternoon. Now it's the Green Team's turn to update Ken on their progress.
Before I came, a lot of PC monitors were left on overnight.
Yes.
Yeah, all of them. Quite a lot.
And the situation now?
Me and Tom have been going around the ICT classrooms at the end of the school day and asking the ICT teachers if we could turn the monitors off for them. And they've been quite happy to let us go around and turn the monitors off.
Good. What I'd like to do is to take that point one stage further. Rather than you asking the teachers if you can go around and switching the monitors off, maybe it would be a good idea if the teachers actually delegated someone in that class each day to ensure that the monitors are off, and then your role is more of a policing role to actually pick up the ones that have not been turned off.
Ken steers the team towards what he sees as the main priorities.
We need to focus on the short term, and we need to focus on the 7 quick hit wins, which I know you've addressed quite a lot of them, but the main one is the monitoring and targeting, and that's the monitoring of electricity, gas and water over the next few weeks. A lot of mistakes are made by people going off track, and not attacking these ones first. Got to make sure you tick all the boxes here and make sure these are reviewed on a regular basis and make sure these 7 are implemented on a regular basis. Yeah?
Like every day, like every week.
Jordan probably arranges like a mini review himself every month, and then you at a formal review meeting like this once every quarter, you ensure that everything's still on track with these 7 key points.
Ken's visit helps point the Green Team in the right direction. By focusing on regular monitoring of electricity and gas usage, they'll collect the data Ken needs.
676-126.
He wants them to target periods of the day where the biggest savings can be made, lunchtimes and at the end of the school day.
thanks to everyone for being so positive and making the effort.
Having to be a green champion to both staff and students, as well as trying to cope with his first full year as a science teacher, means Jordan's got a lot on his plate. After a punishing couple of days, he's able to reflect on his own performance.
I'm just about coping. It's a busy year anyway without taking this on. It's very, very stressful. I think the main problem is I'm not particularly good at delegating jobs, and I have been told to try and sort out spreading the workload and sharing the jobs around. I think the main thing I need is just a bit more time sometimes with just planning my lessons, but it has been a lot of work.
Momentum's building at Castle Vale. Ken Heaton's proving to be a catalyst for change. 2 months since they took up our challenge to go green, Jordan, Clive and the school community have a much clearer view of where they're going. They've got energy-saving targets to aim for. Naming and shaming is a light-hearted approach to making sure staff and students are working as a team and changing their behaviour. And the new recycling bin in the car park is a prominent symbol of their achievements so far. Next time, as the Christmas break approaches, Castle Vale starts planning its long-term strategy for going green. Would getting a wind turbine be a good idea? Getting students involved in planting trees helps embed sustainability issues into the curriculum. And as a long old term ends, staff reflect on how it's all been going.
Are you aware how hated you were the morning after that first meeting?
Yes.